tips on keeping warm. Well, something I often get asked on my videos is how I stay warm when I go car camping. So what I want to do in this video is to give you my 3 top tips for how I stay warm when I go car camping. Now, it's important to say that I don't have some super expensive sponsored battery station that I use to power loads of devices. I do have my own Jackery 240 that I bought, but interestingly, I won't be using that in this video. What is key to my cold weather setup, I believe, are my homemade window covers. Now, these are simply made out of cardboard and weed fabric, and I do have a video up there or there where I can show you how I made them. These are really cheap to make. It's essentially an old cardboard box and weed fabric, and everyone has cardboard boxes, and I think I only paid £8 for the weed fabric, so it's a bargain tool to keep warm in. Now, the fact that my window covers are so good at keeping the car warm is, to be fair, a complete fluke. I designed them to be a complete blackout window cover, but in effect, because of the way they've been designed and because they stick to the whole rim of the inside of the window, essentially no draft can get out. So in effect, it keeps all the heat in. When I go car camping, I use the window covers on the back of the car. Now, I did make window covers for the front of the car, but the very first time I went car camping, trying to put the front blackout on the front windscreen was an absolute nightmare. So tip 2, and actually this is also what I used instead of the front blackout, is to make a contained space in your car. Now, what that means is, so I didn't use a front blackout. I bought some blackout material, so a blackout curtain. Now, what I did with this, I put this pole in. Now, what this fabric does, it goes all the way in, and I've got Velcro down the sides of the car, and in effect this completely portions off the front from the back. So the curtain goes all the way down the front of the seats, goes down the sides, Velcro's in, it's flush to the ceiling, and essentially it creates what I call a contained area. And this is tip 2. Basically, by creating a contained area, when combined with the insulating window covers, you end up with a space that essentially traps whatever heat is in there. And to be honest, the back of a car isn't a particularly massive space to heat, so it does a fantastic job, I find, of keeping all the heat in the car and not allowing anything to escape. Oh, and again, this was a super cheap option. I think the blackout curtain was £8 for the amount that I bought. These 2 things have always been sufficient, and I've never needed anything else. So whilst I have the Jackery 240, and that probably could power some things, I've never needed to. So for the sake of £16, I insulate and stay warm in the back of this car. Now, I know another way that car campers stay warm is by using their camping gas stove, and there are lots of devices you can put on a stove to keep you warm, and we've all seen them on people's videos. Maltz had one, I think Wandering Ware had one, but for me, the reason why I would never use anything like that is because, as you'll know from my channel and previous videos, for me the CO2 alarm has gone off when I've been car camping. Interestingly, if ever you wanted to know if my carbon monoxide alarm worked, it is. It's going off now. So the problem for me and using my stove to keep warm is that I would have to have the window wound down to make sure there's ventilation going through the car. So everything I've described so far is when I'm in the car doing something. But what about how I stay warm during the night? Now, as good as my setup is, there is no denying that the car is cold when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And yes, you've guessed it, my 3rd most important tip with how I stay warm in my car is actually by having, quite simply, a decent sleeping bag. Now, what is handy is this is the first sleeping bag that I ever bought, and I just presumed it was your bog standard sleeping bag. But what I actually bought was, unwittingly, a decent sleeping bag. Now, this is called a Van Gogh Ember, But the important thing is it's a 2-season 8 tog, and it works from 8 degrees up to 20 C degrees. I mean, I have never been cold when I'm inside the sleeping bag, and if I do wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I do find it's cold, then quite simply I pull the sleeping bag up over my head. Between this sleeping bag, the window covers and the curtain that goes across there, I always stay toasty and warm in the back of my car. And I think by doing my 3 things, that will certainly serve to keep you warmer when you're in the back of your car. So until next time, I hope you found this little tutorial useful. If you've got any questions, whack them in the comments, and I always answer questions that I get asked. But otherwise, I will see you next time I go car camping. So until then, take care.